we all have ways to impact the problem of addiction that we may not currently understand. We have, does anybody know what a paradigm is?
Worldview.
Say it louder.
Our worldview of how we look at things.
Right, so a paradigm is a stereotype or worldview that we see everything as X, Y, Z. All right. So I want to do a little exercise here. A local doctor, and if you guys don't shout out your answers at the end of the exercise. A local doctor and his son go on a trip. The doctor's a pilot and he has his own private plane. They fly out of the Rochester airport, and the doctor's a pilot, son's in the passenger seat. They fly out on vacation, have a good vacation. They come back on vacation. The doctor's flying the plane, his father's flying the plane. They short the runway in Rochester, and they crash the plane. And the father is dead on impact. The son lives, he's medevaced to Strong Memorial Hospital right away. They get there, the son's on the operating table. Doctor comes in, says, I can't do surgery on this boy. This boy's my son. How do you explain that? Okay, so how many people think it's a stepfather that's the surgeon? Anybody? How many people don't know an answer? Okay, so what the Reverend was saying earlier, a paradigm is the way our minds are conditioned to work, and it doesn't make us bad people, right? We often look at the differences between black people, white people as a choice, right? That everybody had a perception of me walking into it, right? I had a perception of you walking into it. And guess what? None of it was stuff that we had consciously thought about, right? So what's the answer to the riddle?
It's his mother. His mother's a surgeon.
The mother's a surgeon. Now, the fact that you didn't understand that the surgeon could be the mother, does that make you gender biased? Does that make you hate women? But we are conditioned, right? We're conditioned by the TV shows always showing us surgeons. There's a nurse. She didn't get it right the first time.
Hardly remembered this.
She hardly remembered it the second time, right? So my point is with addictions and drug use, if I say heroin to you, what do you think about? But what do you picture? Like you pictured a surgeon, right? You had a picture in your head of a guy. That's how you got to your conclusion. Immediate boom, picture. When you think about heroin, what do you think about? What's the picture? Exactly. Culturally, that's exactly what we think about. We think about shooting up syringes, tourniquets in a dark, dirty place, right? All of us. Do we picture that? Do we picture that? None of us, right? Dirty, nasty people. He was not a dirty, nasty person. And today's addicts aren't dirty, nasty people. They're good people. They're good people that have made a series of small, bad decisions. And then what happens is those bad decisions become almost something you can't control. You physically be. The reality of opiate addiction is that it's the most physically addictive. You recognize it, right? Well, your words were, I can't remember exactly what you said, but you said death, right?
Yeah.
This is the first person that's equated that to death. Now, Marcus's path to opiates was this. How many know math? You know math, right? What's a transitive property? You don't know? All right, we're all going to have a little math lesson. If A equals B, and B equals C, what can we conclude? If A equals B and B equals C, then what?
C is part of both of them.
Right, there you go. So A equals B, B equals C, and we conclude what?
A equals B.
A equals C. So, in today's heroin addiction problem, here's what's going on. A is prescriptions. C is death. And B is heroin. So A, actually I get this wrong. You get the point.
I get it.
Right, so the path today is, first of all, that prescriptions are bad, right? If we start with you, if we know that heroin is death, right? And we know that prescriptions are the same as heroin. Did you guys know that? Did you know Vicodin, Percocet,
Yes.
Oxycontin, hydrocodone? Did you guys all know that those are literally chemical cousins of heroin?
I have a testimony.
Pardon me? And we have a personal testimony. They're highly addictive. So what's the paradigm that we have about doctors that's causing part of this problem?
They know everything that's right.
They know everything that's right.
So it must be
Do we all put doctors on a pedestal?
Yes, we do.
Right? They know more than us, right? They've been in school 12 years, whatever it is. They would never give us something that's bad for us, would they? But we don't get it, right? Right? They wouldn't do that. But what's happening? They're pushing these painkillers, right? And are we being told that they're chemical cousins to heroin? Typically not. Or if we are, when you go and pick up the pharmacy, hey, do you need any description about this drug? Nah, good, I'll sign it. Right? So we're not being educated properly. And what's happening is heroin equals death, prescription drugs equal heroin, therefore prescription drugs equal death. Okay? This is reality, and it's not being talked about. Your personal testimony is?
Everybody knows I used to be a member of Olivet Baptist Church, and I was here for 12 years. A year before I came here, 5 years prior to that, I was probably a size 40, and I had a lot of pain because my breasts were out to here. I don't know what size they were, because I just shoved them in whatever I could afford. And my stomach, I had a stomach that was down to my knees. So in other words, I couldn't see my knees. That's what I looked like before I came to Mount Olivet. I was in a very bad state of pain all over my back. I could not move. The doctor prescribed oxycodone, Percocets. I had enough drugs in me to put a horse down. I could not work. I couldn't see about my kids. I just stayed home most of the time. And I guess the end of it for me was one day someone knocked on the door and I answered it and I was totally naked and I went and laid back down in my bed and I don't know who came through the door. And that's when I said enough is enough. I can't do this. So I talked to my doctor about coming off and he suggested that I have a breast reduction and tummy tuck and then move from there. So we did all the surgeries and he still continued to keep me on those drugs. Even though I had all that work done and even though I started dieting and exercising, I was still on those drugs. And I asked him constantly to please remove me from the drugs. I didn't need them anymore. I wasn't in any pain. He didn't grant my wishes, and he told me if I came off those drugs, I would be sick or something. I just wouldn't be able to do it. I I tried to do it myself. I tried not to take any of those medications because I couldn't do anything with my life. I was in a state of death, basically. I couldn't wash the bathtub out. I couldn't do nothing. So I tried to come off myself, and that's when I realized I couldn't. I mean, you talk about withdrawal that was like crazy, and I'm telling you, I've been on these drugs for about 3 or 4 years. I could not come off. When I stopped taking one pill, I would go berserk, and I had to go back on it. Now here's where God came in. This is why I came to Mount Olivet. This is where God came in my life. I went to a revival, and I said, listen, I had all the pills that I had, every pill that the doctor had given me. And I walked up to the guy in the church who was having a revival, and I said, listen, I don't want to take these anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something with my life. I know God's got great things for me, but I cannot do it stretched out on these drugs. I can't do it. He took the bag of pills and gave it to his wife, and they prayed over me. From that day to this, I never had one, what's the word you call when you're feeding? There was some cravings, and it was another word where you would actually, you would withdrawal symptoms. It was horrible. I never had one.
Wow.
Not one. It was God and God alone. I've been on those drugs for 3 to 4 years, and I came off like that. That next morning, I got up expecting the withdrawal systems. Weeks and months went by. I even had a doctor's appointment, and he was like, do you want another prescription? I said, no. As a matter of fact, I hadn't been taking any. I don't need any. Thank you very much. Oh, as a matter of fact, no thank you for what you've done for me. It was horrible. That doctor, those doctors are horrible. They had no intentions of curing me. Their intentions were to keep me pain-free, dead, and line their pockets. Him and the pharmaceutical company were in cahoots. They don't care about the patients. So when the doctor gave me Tylenol,
I'll sit down now.
when the doctor gave me Tylenol free with codeine the other day, I had to call on Jesus because you know what happens? I'll go right back. I'll go right back. That's my testimony. That's what you see here today. That picture that you ripped up, that could have been me. Because it was killing me.
And I think we have to recognize it could be anybody close to us. And that story is so common. Right? It's so common about the innocence of us following the paradigm of what doctors are there for. And candidly, right now, it's not necessarily true. They apparently have been swayed by the money of the big pharmaceutical companies. There's a class action suit, 2 class action suits pending right now against big pharmaceuticals and the health industry that will probably be bigger than the big tobacco lawsuits because they are, number one, when they are prescribing, they're not providing the due diligence to us to let us know, hey, this is really, really dangerous stuff if you use it too many days in a row. Number 2, when they do give it to us, they may give us 60 pills instead of the 10 that would take us to where we need from a pain threshold standpoint, and then have us renew the prescription. And number 3, the growth. I don't know what's going on in the marketplace right now. This is the number of heroin deaths and opiate deaths. Okay, it's quadrupled in the last number of years. Yes. Here's the level of service. Right, so the level, number of beds, number of recovery programs, number of people, recovery coaches, number of people able to service this problem is growing. It's getting better, but look at the gap. Right? That's a huge gap. That's a huge problem. That's not going to get fixed anytime soon. So what can we do? One more piece of data. How many people died last year from opiate overdoses? Yes. More than 50,000. okay, which was the #1 form of accidental death in the country, higher than car accidents, okay? And it's growing. Do we hear about it?
No.
Do we hear about West Nile virus? Do we hear about Ebola virus? Do we hear about Zika virus? Do we hear about the flu virus? Out of all those, guess how many people died from Zika, the Zika virus, West Nile virus, and Ebola virus in the USA last year?
About 5.
How many?
I'm gonna say 5.
Less than 200.
Ooh.
But we hear about it all the time, right? Ooh, big problem. 50,000 a year. Now, I was surprised when I started doing the research, how many people die from the flu every year. It's actually about the same number. So it feels like we should be talking about the flu and making sure we understand the danger of getting the flu. The other thing the Reverend said that I think we don't appreciate is the physical addictive nature of this drug is different than crack cocaine. It's different than marijuana. It's different than alcohol. The physical withdrawal symptoms that the body goes through on this drug is the flu times some number, big number, 10, 12, 13. My son couldn't hold his neck up. Couldn't hold his neck up. He was driving. He couldn't hold his neck. He'd drive like this. It was awful. His whole body would stiffen up. He'd sweat. I mean, one time his body just started pouring liquids out of his eyes, out of his nose. It was disgusting and sad. So, now I think we understand the problem. What can we do about it? You guys are here because